Hello, everyone. This is Phil Yaeger, and welcome to my podcast called CPA Review and More. Today, we're not talking about CPA Review. We're talking about more, and I'm very honored to be talking to this gentleman, Ian Schnoor, all right, who is in Canada. I don't know if you could be our first Canadian guest, okay?
All right.
Now, Ian is got a phenomenal background. In fact, I said to myself, he wanted to be on this little podcast. Nothing. I'm so grateful I got him. He could have been on the Leno shows you how old I am. He could have been. He could have been on the Tonight Show or whatever. But he said, no, I want to be on that Phil Yaeger show. So I said, well, I can't account for your taste. So anyway, all right, Ian, welcome to the show. You are not a CPA, am I correct? Because you are.
I am not a CPA, and thank you for having me on your show. I highly prefer this over Leno any day of the week. So thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, Leno's not on anymore. But
right.
Yeah. So you'd be a very lonely guest.
Right.
Okay, but anyway, Ian, you live in where? Tell us where do you live?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Very nice city. I've been there.
You have?
And,
yes.
Yes, been there a couple of times. And you are not really in the accounting realm of business. You're more or less in finance, right?
Yes, I function in the finance world, but it overlaps a lot with accountants, and I end up teaching some accounting and teach accountants. A lot of accountants have come through what we do. So there's a lot of overlap, but I myself am not I have a CFA designation, but not accounting designation.
CFA is a chartered financial analyst.
Correct. Chartered financial analyst. Yeah, through the CFA.
Given all over. It's in Canada, all over the world. Okay.
All over the world.
Very hard exam. It's not an easy exam. I know that.
And getting harder. That's right.
Is it getting harder?
Okay. The pass rate was 22%
wow.
this year.
Wow, that's low.
That's very low.
Well, it's probably good. It makes you more, you're more in demand then.
Well, more something, I guess, but okay. Yes.
All right. Now, we're going to talk today about what Ian does. He does financial modeling.
Yeah.
And when I got the letter from his person who represents him, she said he'll talk about financial modeling. All right. Now, my first thought was, is he going to bring on a bunch of models? All right. And then they'll model their finances? I don't know. All right. But anyway, Ian, what is financial modeling? Because you are involved in that.
I am involved in that. And I could bring on some to show you, but they wouldn't get you too excited. But a financial model is a discipline. It is a discipline. Financial modeling is a skill, and it's a discipline. It's actually more than just a skill that is becoming more and more important, has become increasingly important over the last 10, 20 years. And in a nutshell, it's a discipline of building a forecast, a financial forecast, usually of a company within a spreadsheet. So it's all about forecasting a company's future performance, forecasting all of their financial statements, typically 5 to 10 years into the future, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. But that's it. It's simply the act of building a forecast. Now, all accountants have done that. We've all forecasted. The problem is, and this is why it's a discipline, the problem is that most people's forecasts that they build in spreadsheets are a disaster. They're a mess, and they make it very, very difficult for them to use. And what I always tell people is that the reason why modeling has become so important is because financial models built in spreadsheets have become the most important decision-making tool these days in all of accounting and finance. So many decisions people make are based on the backs of a financial model. It could be a planning decision, an operational decision. It could be an investment decision, a valuation decision. It could be a decision regarding a mergers and acquisitions opportunity. It could be a credit decision, a lending decision, and they're all based on what the future could look like. And we try to organize it and synthesize it in our spreadsheet tool, and it's called a model. But as I said, so often people don't have the skills to build them in a way. We like to say that a good model should be beautiful. It should be easy to use, easy to follow, easy to understand, like a beautiful piece of software within your Excel spreadsheet. but people don't know how to do that. And as a result, it makes it very difficult for people to use. And just last, if any of your listeners has ever had a spreadsheet that made them want to swear and curse all the time, where they found mistakes all the time, where it took them way too long to use it, to update it, to make sense out of it. Well, that's an example of a tool that wasn't working very well, but that they needed for a critical decision. So we want people to have phenomenal, best-in-class skills so that they can build world-class models and make optimal financial decisions.
Now, do you just train people for this area of financial modeling? You train them, you consult, all right? Now, I want to explain to you what's happening in the United States, okay?
Yeah.
The certified public accountants, all right? People think CPAs are just people who do books, debits and credits.
Right.
But we have a lot of CPAs that are going into consulting.
Yes.
Now, how many people in the US do you think are going into financial modeling? All right. I mean, do you have any idea? All right. You're training people.
Yeah.
Where do most of your people come that you train?
Well, so let's back up. So I started my career as an investment banker, and investment bankers are required to do lots of financial models and modeling because we're trying to help companies make acquisitions. We're helping companies with financing. So there's lots of modeling that goes on. And around 20 years ago, I left banking. I spent some time at a bank called BMO, and then I spent a few years at Citibank. It was called Solomon Smith Barney back then. And I left. And about 20 years ago, I started a training business called the Marquee Group. And at the Marquee Group, we run training courses all over the world to help people learn and improve their financial modeling skills. And so we've been doing that for a long time. And the firm is still very active doing that at all sorts of large global banks and regional banks, pension funds, business schools. But what happened was around 10 years ago, we started to notice something very interesting happening. What was happening was previously, when banks wanted to hire new bankers, they would say, we're looking for someone with, I don't know, a CPA or a CFA or an MBA, whatever it was. We're looking for people with these qualifications. Around 5 to 10 years ago, that changed. And job postings would start to say, we're looking for those credentials, but we also want people who have strong financial modeling skills. They started saying that years ago, we're looking for people with proven modeling skills. It became a prerequisite, if you will, to getting hired. And so all sorts of students and junior professionals panicked and they said, how do I prove that I have strong modeling skills? And so what they would all do is take a course. They would attend a course from either Marquee Group or there's lots and lots of, well, not lots, but there's a handful. There's 4 or 5 training firms in the US that provide training in financial modeling. And people would say, I took a training course from XYZ company. And that's what they would say. But of course, as you would know, simply taking a course doesn't mean you've got strong skills. It means you took the course. If you really want to get good at anything, you need to practice it and really hone your skills over and over. So we realized that there was a huge need globally for an organization that was an accreditation body, a true accreditation body that would validate and test people's modeling skills so that if they passed the test, we could truly certify them as saying, yes, this guy, Phil, truly has outstanding modeling skills. So when Phil applies for a job, he doesn't have to say, yeah, I have good skills because I took a course. He can actually say, I have this designation and now I've ticked a box. Now you know that I have excellent modeling skills because I got through a challenging, very difficult exam. So we're doing that through another organization we started 5 years ago called the Financial Modeling Institute. The FMI, the Financial Modeling Institute, is now an organization that a number of us around the world got together. And in 2017, we launched it to test and validate people's modeling skills. And we have people all over the world sitting the exams.
Who accredits you? You say you're accredited by who? See, we have accreditations here in the States.
Yeah.
Colleges are regionally accredited. There's, for example, business schools here. In accounting, they're accredited by the American Assembly of Collegiate Schools of Business. Right? So my question is this: how do you prove you have the expertise, and who accredits you? All right, and where are you going to get the training from? It sounds to me like the person who goes into this has a very strong analytical skills,
Yeah.
a strong math skills.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So if we take the person who is a CPA, okay, it's supposed to be the hardest professional exam.
Yeah.
And it probably still is. But the thing is, a person says, gee, it sounds interesting. I'd like to go into mergers, acquisitions, that type of thing. All right. But here I am. I passed the CPA exam. Okay. Now, what's my next step? And what do I do once I get the CPA? I'm working in an accounting firm. I'm working for a corporation.
Yeah.
Right. Do I have to take time off? And how long does this financial modeling course go for?
Yeah. So these are a lot of great questions that you packed in there. Let me first start by saying that financial modeling is a very multidisciplinary skill set, which is part of why a lot of people like it. And as I said, it's equally relevant to people who work in finance roles and accounting roles. A lot of accountants do financial modeling as part of their job. If you happen to be an accountant working at a company and you're in the finance team, you might be expected to build a forecast for the business or for a division. And that's basically a model. You want to build a model of your own business, of your own organization. Or if you're working as a lender at any bank, or you're working in equity research or in private equity or banking, all of those disciplines. Or if you're working on a consulting team or a deals team within one of the large accounting or at an accounting firm, you need modeling skills. So it's multidisciplinary because to be a good modeler, you first of all have to have very strong Excel skills. That's the tool that we use. You have to have strong accounting skills. You don't need to be an accountant, but you need strong modeling skills. So for instance, I've taught probably a couple thousand days of modeling courses over my career through the Marquee Group training business that I had started many years ago. And I teach accounting all the time because you need to understand accounting to build models. So you need to understand how the financial statements talk to each other. You need to understand how a subsidiary might flow through the income statement and create a non-controlling interest and then roll through the cash flow statement. And where does it touch the balance sheet? You have to understand all the pieces and how they connect and talk to each other. So you have to understand Excel. You have to understand accounting. You have to understand business issues. You have to understand finance. You have to understand design. How do we design data and organize a model well? So we go through all of that in the accreditation. And when people achieve their accreditation, it means they have a strong basis in all of them. And so that was sort of a question you were asking.
So you grant the accreditation, correct?
So the Financial Modeling Institute, the organization that we started, we are granting, yes, the accreditation. Now, the FMI, our accreditation body, is itself not accredited, but we were formed and created by a number of professionals around the world. We have an advisory council that's comprised of very senior financial modelers that are in New York. This group of people is in Canada, the US, in New York, in the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Australia is where we have our advisory council. They are very senior professionals in banks. Three of them come from the three of the four largest accounting firms. The head of financial modeling globally at PwC sits on our advisory council. PwC, by the way, uses our exams for their own people. So if you work at PwC in many of their offices and you want to join one of their transaction teams or their deal teams, you need to get through at a minimum our level 1 exam, which is called the AFM, the Advanced Financial Modeler exam. So PwC is using this. In a nutshell, the premise behind our exams are pretty simple. Our level 1 exam gives people a case study and says, here's 4 hours. Go build a financial model of this company that we've given you a case study on. And that's it. And we literally give people 4 hours. The exams are proctored. They're highly controlled. And people have to build it up. And then we have a grading team all over the world that grades them on a very challenging rubric. And if people get past the bar, then the FMI, the institute we created, the Financial Modeling Institute, will bestow the designation and grant people their AFM. So that's how we function. We're sort of self-functioning in that way with a large network of people. I will also share with you some exciting news is the former CEO of the CFA Institute globally, who's based in Hong Kong, has just joined our team as a board member and as a senior advisor. And when he was heading up the CFA Institute, saw a tremendous need amongst finance professionals and CFA charter holders to have modeling skills. And so he's excited to help join us. We've got some other very senior industry professionals joining us as well, because they really believe in the need for this globally.
See, a friend of mine who got the CFA, and this is probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He went to, I don't know what he was doing before, but he went to, took off full time. His wife is a doctor, but he took off full time, went to Georgetown University, all right, to get his degree in finance.
Yeah.
All right. And then he studied for the CFA.
Okay.
Right. And he studied full time.
Really?
Right. Yeah. Studied. Well, he didn't have to worry about income. Okay. All right. And I don't know how many parts there were to the CFA.
Yeah. Listen, people put in different amounts of time. I did my CFA designation years ago as well. The CFA program is 3 levels. It's 3 separate exams. Historically, you could only do them once a year. So it takes people at least 3 years typically to get through all of the exams. And you need, in the CFA, you got to get through all 3 of the exams and then get work experience. And then they bestow the designation upon you. I mean, there's a range. Most people like myself would study on weekends and evenings for a few months. And then, I would always take off the week, a few days or a week before the exam, and just trying to do a bit of extra cramming and more intense studying. And that was, enough to get through that. I don't know too many people who've literally made it a full-time pursuit.
Well, I guess, all right. They had adopted a child, so he sort of took care of the child during the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was spending a few hours a day studying, I guess, when he could.
Now, he was a heavy in finance.
Yeah.
And the reason was that at the time, one of the parts of the CPA exam called the BEC part, Business, Environment, and Concepts.
Yeah.
That has some finance in it.
Okay.
Finance, economics. And we found that someone who has that background is not going to be an accountant. So he was not a CPA. He was a CFA.
Okay.
And he taught the economics, taught the finance. The only problem is he couldn't bring it down to the level that you had to know as a CPA.
Got it.
Right. I'm sure what he was saying was correct. All right. And he worked in derivatives. He worked for everything. But he eventually, I lost track with him, and I bumped into him in DC. And he was working for a big consulting firm, and doing very well. But he was always out of town, a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
So I think to myself, is a CPA coming out of college, all right, is an accounting major coming out of college, all right, who passed the CPA exam, going to be good at finance? I think they might, if a lot of people now going into accounting. And what they're doing is they're getting double majors.
Yeah.
So I know this young man, he's at the University of Colorado. All right. And there's a 5-year program now to take the CPA exam. All right. So he'll finish up accounting in 4 years, but he still can't take the exam because he needs a 5th year of education. Right. So he's going to also major in finance. Now, he would sound to me like the perfect candidate. Yeah. All right. But I honestly, and I'm not saying anything bad about people taking, coming out of accounting. We have so many online universities here.
Yep.
And we also have, I hate to say it, we have universities here, not every university, where the people that are coming in and teaching, all right, this American Assembly Collegiate Schools of Business, they're only interested in one thing, all right, that these PhDs, they have to have a certain amount of PhDs, all right, they do research.
Yes.
So, all right, the students are not really taught well because we find that people who do research aren't necessarily good teachers.
Yeah.
All right. Where now University of Maryland has thought, there are people who don't want to publish, they don't want to do research, but they're excellent teachers. Okay. All right. So if you're going into accounting, you want to learn accounting. All right. You don't care about the guy writing a research paper about something which is so esoteric that you don't really care what's in it. No one reads them anyway. All right. Now, I'm thinking to myself, can someone with just an accounting degree from a school, all go into an area like this. It sounds very sophisticated.
They
right?
can. They can. They
All
can.
right. So
They absolutely.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they can. We always like to say, I mean, as you know, accounting, there's a lot of overlap between accounting and finance. I'm on the finance side of the spectrum. And I like to say that, a strong finance professional should have a strong accounting background. We like to say in finance that accounting is the language. That is the language of finance. It's very difficult to be a strong finance practitioner if you do not have a strong accounting background. We don't want to practice accounting, but we need to understand it. One of my favorite university profs in finance started off in the course by our corporate finance course and sort of said the major, and I use this line, the people, in university don't always understand the difference between accounting and finance. And, he articulated, I thought, quite nicely when he said that accounting is not exclusively, but largely focused on the past and understanding what has happened and recognizing it and recording it and explaining it and making sure it's accurate. Whereas finance, by and large, is focused on the future. But of course, there's overlap. But to understand what the future is going to look like, you need to understand the language. And as I said earlier, understand, if a company is doing the following things, how is that going to roll through their financial statements? How will a certain cost item impact working capital, touch the balance sheet, impact their capital structure? How will it all tie together on the income statement, balance sheet, et cetera? And so you need to be able to kind of think through that. But yes, because modeling is a very multidisciplinary skill set, if you already come into modeling and if you have a strong accounting background, you have a leg up. You already have a great starting point compared with others who do not. So, a lot of accountants come in and want to get certified. And they often do a little faster, a little easier because they understand the accounting. They don't need to learn. They don't need to learn what depreciation is and what it means. They just need to understand how you model it and how you forecast it. So for sure, having an accounting background is always an outstanding starting point to then leapfrog into other areas, of business.
Yeah, because a lot of people are going into advisory services in the States here, consulting. One person I know, like he said to me, he got a CPA.
Yeah.
And he went to work for a public accounting firm, a big four, all right,
yeah.
for 4 years. And that was good to help him to go into the consulting area, which sounds very similar to what you're doing. All right. But he said, you have to know how to analyze the financial statements.
Of course. Right.
And generally, it's the CPA and working in public accounting, all right, that did that for him.
That's
okay.
Right.
Now, let's assume I'm that person. All right. I come to you. All right. You're going to put me through this financial modeling, right?
Right.
Right. Which, as you said, how many exams?
Well, we have 3 separate levels. So the first level is 1 exam. And if you pass that exam, it's a 4-hour exam and you can earn the Advanced Financial Modeler, the AFM designation.
Okay. What about the second one?
The second level is called the CFM, the Chartered Financial Model. That's also a separate 4-hour exam. It's only AFMs are eligible. You need to get through level 1 if you want. You don't have to get to level 2. Level 1 is probably appropriate for most people. But if you really want to get to a much even more detailed, sophisticated level of modeling, some people aspire to our second level, which is the Chartered Financial Modeler.
And the third one is called what?
The third one is called the Master Financial Modeler level, the MFM. And that one is more like, you'll recognize this, is more like an accounting fellowship. The Master Financial Modeler level is more akin to a lifetime achievement. It is more of an application process for people who can demonstrate contribution to the field of modeling, people who have been working in modeling for a long time, who have exceptional technical skills, who have been teaching or leading groups or interacting with clients and have contributed to the field in some way through talks, publishing, content, and, who are truly at the top of the pyramid. And are deserving of that. And we have a committee that's being launched next year, by the way. We were supposed to launch it just before COVID, but then we had some other things to deal with. So that's going to come out next year, the master level, the third level.
It sounds to me like if you take maybe the first course, that could be enough to go into financial modeling. Or do you need the second one?
No, you don't need the second one. The first, So, and it's not a course, so to speak. It's not, it's more, again, when
Is it
people,
a case study? Is it a case study?
it's, so it is an exam. What we're selling people is access, ability to write the exam. And if they pass the exam, they get the designation. The exam itself is a case study, and they have to build up a model. Now, you asked earlier about how people can learn this. So think of the institute. Our FMI Institute is sort of like the CPA organization. There are approximately 25 training firms all over the world that run training courses to help people prepare for our exams in the same way that you do to help people prepare for the CPA exams through your own business. So there's around 25 firms all over the world that help people prepare. Also, through the FMI, we also have our own learning materials. We have a whole tutorial series. So when people sign up for the exam, they get access to a learning management portal with about 12 hours of video series that walks people through step by step by step. So they can either use the tutorial series that comes by signing up for the AFM exam, or they can use another training firm and pay that firm to help teach them how to build a financial model.
Do you teach them how to build a financial model?
Well, so through the FMI, we don't run training courses, but we did create learning materials. So our learning materials can effectively teach people, yes, if they want to use our learning materials, which people like a lot, they're welcome to use our learning materials. But we don't run classes. Like the FMI does not run classes where you come and every Monday night you sit with us and we teach you. We're think again, like the CFA Institute or the CPA Institute. We're there to kind of adjudicate, proctor, build the exams, and validate people who have passed the exams. And that's what we're doing at the FMI.
Your financial statements are in international financial reporting standards, correct?
Yeah. Yes. To be perfectly honest, they are generic enough that they could pass for US GAAP or IFRS. We're not trying to get so much into the weeds that the company, whenever we create companies for the case studies to write the exam, it could easily be built either way. We don't get into enough granularity that forces people to understand that we don't want people to have to worry about the distinction between IFRS and US GAAP. So for instance, we will give people information in the case study about the sector, the industry, the company, how revenue works, how their cost structure is designed. We'll talk about the fixed assets and CapEx programs.
Accounting. It sounds like a lot of accounting.
Yeah, but it doesn't require an intimate knowledge of IFRS rules or GAAP rules. People write this exam in the US, so they write it all over the world. And so it's sort of agnostic to which accounting rules that you need to adhere to.
Okay. All right. You froze, and I don't know where you cut off.
Oh, did you? I was just saying.
All right. Let's go back to you were talking about fixed assets, and I said that it sounds a lot like accounting.
Yeah, and then I was telling you.
All right. I'll start this way. All right. What about, you're talking about fixed assets, okay? What basically, it sounds like, a person has to know the information of an accountant. And then you said, no, all right? You said the accountant is more or less, calculating depreciation, that type of thing.
That's
all right? That's not what you do.
No, it is, because if we're building, so what we'll tell them in the case study for the exam, for the AFM exam, we'll say, hey, here's a company A. Company A has PP&E on their balance sheet of X dollars, and this is their capital expenditure forecast for the next 5 years. We'll say to them that they use straight line methodology or declining balance, and over 20 years or over 10 years, whatever it is, and we'll expect people to take that information and be able to forecast all of the asset-based calculations. So they'll have to build a depreciation schedule in their spreadsheet that properly forecasts depreciation or using whichever methodology we provide. But what I was saying is it's agnostic as to whether you live in a country that uses IFRS versus US GAAP, because wherever you are, you still need to know how to forecast the depreciation expense using different approaches. So it shouldn't matter whether you are using IFRS typically or GAAP.
You know that IFRS is no longer on the CPA exam.
So
they put it on the exam
yeah,
because they wanted a convergence of
yes,
GAAP
right.
and okay, all
Yeah,
right. And IFRS was never approved by the SEC.
that's right.
So therefore, it was taken out of the exam as of July 1st.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's right. I mean, but my understanding from that is what they've taken out is they don't need people to have an intimate understanding of the distinction in rules between IFRS versus US GAAP.
So it's not important that you know that
No, because
LIFO is not an acceptable method of inventory for IFRS.
no, because when you forecast, when you forecast in a financial forecast, the inventory methodology is somewhat secondary. Again, we're not financial modelers, and financial models are rarely getting into the level of granularity around am I using average life? Am I using LIFO? Am I using FIFO? What we're trying to do when looking out into the future is say, what were the balances? What were the account balances at the end of last period? And how am I going to forecast them based on expectations on collecting cycles, receivable days, inventory days? And use that information to forecast what I think my account balances will be into the future so that I can understand my working capital positions. But for most high-level models, it's not relevant. And I understand, right? Obviously, IFRS does allow LIFO or FIFO. US GAAP does not allow both of them. That's not going to come into play when you're forecasting the company into the future.
Where do most of the financial modelers come from? All right. What countries? You're dealing with all over the world, right?
Yeah,
it's
amazing. It's
all right. You have, well, let's assume we have all financial models, 100%. All right.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, first of all, where do most of them come from? What country?
It's an excellent question. I mean, the fun thing about what we're doing and what we've seen is that there's interest all over the world. We've had people sit our exams from over 50 or 60 countries around the world. We used to run our exams in person, like you'd go to a testing center and you'd sit the exam in person.
Right.
But with COVID, we moved to a virtual approach where people write from home or from their office. But it's even more rigorous than ever before because our proctoring software gets a full recording of the person and of their screen. So we're watching the screen, we're watching them. So if anyone comes into the room, if they start talking to anyone, we get flagged. We can see what's happening. We can see if they're if they're going to other internet sources, which they're not allowed to do. So so we've seen people, a lot of interest, I'll tell you, Phil, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Asia. There's certainly plenty in we've had a lot of writers from New York, Toronto, Chicago, and the major financial centers in the US.
There are a lot of people from the United States.
Yeah, we are getting people. We're getting a lot of people. Listen, we're not getting huge numbers yet. We're still relatively new. And it's a very challenging exam. So when people become aware of us, they need to be ready for the exam. So we're building our volumes, our numbers, but every time we sit an exam and we get hundreds of people come out, they're coming to us from all over the world.
And do you find that the people that are going into this have a very high intelligence rate? They're very intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be quite intelligent you don't need to be, a genius by any stretch. You need to be intelligent. You need to be, modeling has two major components to it, Phil. There's the knowledge portion, and then there's the skills portion. I'm not sure if did you ever do any sport growing up or play any sports yourself? Are you a golfer?
No, I did. Basically, every day I would get up from my bedroom. In fact, I can tell you today, I get up, my bedroom is upstairs. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I get up about 6 a.m. and I took a good brisk walk down the steps.
Nice.
And then I sit on the couch and watch MSNBC.
Okay. So you watch it. Okay.
Right? So
you're not.
To answer your question, no, I didn't.
No. Okay. Well, you can imagine if we took, let's say, golf as an example, every discipline that requires some practice, there's two components. There's the knowledge piece and then there's the skills piece. Modeling has both. It's kind of like a sport. if you wanted to learn golf in about 2 hours, you could learn a lot of what you need to know about the game. You could learn the history. You could understand a golf course works. You could understand the different clubs. I could teach you who the major players are. I could teach you how to scoring works, and you could learn all the things you need to know about golf in a few hours. That's the knowledge side. But to really get good at golf, you got to go to a driving range for hours and hours, day on day on day on end. If someone was brand new to the US and wanted to become an excellent golfer, you could teach them the knowledge that they need in a few hours, but they're going to need months by themselves on a driving range, hitting balls, practicing, playing over and over, and then they could get very good. Modeling is the same. If by taking, going through our learning materials or taking a course, we'll teach you all the knowledge you need. You'll learn about working capital. You'll learn about depreciation. You'll understand debt. But to get good at it, to pass the exam, you need to put in the reps. You need to put in the tries and the time to do it over and over and over and over again until you're really comfortable. Building up a full model of a company in under 4 hours is challenging. Just on a time, that's a lot of time pressure. So I will tell you, of the people who fail the exam, we can tell a lot of the fail people, a lot of those who failed because they ran out of time. So they had a good understanding of what they were doing. They were doing great work on the exam, but they ran out of time. But that's important too, because anyone who does modeling for a living knows you need to know what you're doing, and you got to be pretty quick. You got to be able to work fast because people want you to do it very quickly. And so that's what we're looking for. And you know what? Those who pass do it they can do it in 3 hours. But yeah, so it's something that you just need to keep doing over and over, and you'll get it. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to kind of get there. You need to go through the content and then practice a lot.
After I pass my first level of your exam, okay, I go and look for a position. All right.
Yeah.
Are companies there going to hire me and give me the training, or do they want people who have the training already?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So if you happen to be looking for a job that requires modeling skills, when recruiters and employers see that you are an AFM, they will come to learn that an AFM means you're an advanced financial modeler and you passed a very challenging, rigorous exam. Now we are in 2022, we've got a major educational campaign on the go. Those who know about what we're doing are using it and like it. So for instance, as I mentioned at PwC, they're using the exams internally as their barometer, their tool. But we are working very hard to educate the world. We're looking to educate professors all over the world. We're looking to educate banks and bankers and big companies. We want it to become somewhat ubiquitous, where someone who's recruiting or who's looking for people comes to understand that if you meet a candidate and they have their AFM, that means they have outstanding financial modeling skills. And we're working to help educate people so that they're aware of that.
Okay, but my question is, when you get it, all right, you want to get a job, a position, correct?
Yes, right. Yeah, right.
How hard is it to get a job with no experience in the field?
Oh, well, I mean, it really does depend to some extent. Some jobs are looking for people some jobs are entry-level jobs, and other jobs do want people. It's a bit of a chicken and egg.
Entry-level means no experience, or a year or two?
Absolutely. So for instance, a lot of finance jobs recruit people right out of university. So a lot of credit jobs, a lot of banking jobs will bring in a group of seniors. Every one of the major banks brings in hundreds and hundreds of recent undergrads and MBAs. But in order for these jobs are very heavily sought out. These are very, very competitive jobs to get. So if some students can demonstrate that they not only have good grades and they not only have the right degree, but they also have an AFM, that tells the employer, wow, you really took your modeling skills. So you have a great academic background and you have excellent financial modeling skills. And we know that because you've got that will just give them an advantage.
We'll invest money in you to give you the training.
Yeah, because we know you're already going to be coming in quite strong in modeling. And, I got to tell you, some people who join banks really have a hard time figuring out this skill. And if a bank hires someone and they just can't figure out modeling, then that person may not be very effective in the role.
I'm curious about one thing. Are you familiar with what's going on in the U.S. work market, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. It's very competitive.
People are just retiring. They can't find people to work.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have the same problem in Canada?
Yeah, we're experiencing a pretty tight labor market right now as well. People are leaving the workforce. Businesses booming at the higher end corporate side. Banks are hiring. There's been a lot of turnover at banks. It's pretty similar to what you're seeing in the U.S. right now.
You see,
Indeed.
they were able to quit here in the US because they were getting huge amounts of money from the government.
Oh, is that why?
Oh, yeah. They were getting tax-free unemployment,
Okay.
600 a week, and maybe another $400 a week. All right. Just as supplemental because the economy was so bad. They were getting $1,000 a week for staying home.
Wow.
So therefore, all right, and a lot of it is, I think it's based on states, counties, but a lot of people maybe are still on this. If you're getting $1,000 a week, US dollars, tax free, what's your incentive to go to work?
Not much,
And
I
that's
guess.
what the problem is. And
Okay.
they're actually going after now retirees,
Uh-huh.
right? Try to get them to come back into the workforce.
Yeah, and that's creating a problem because now, I mean, a lot of bankers that I've spoken to recently, recruiters are struggling to find people. There's a lot of turnover and they're finding it tough. They don't get a lot of good applications when they put up job postings right now. So yes, it is definitely a good market to be looking for work. It won't always stay that way. And those who really want to get in or get to the next level, they continue to have to distinguish themselves and prove that they have the skills needed.
In the States, they're saying this could continue for a long time. As long as, hey, people have this money they built up, this tax-free money,
Yeah.
and they have enough money in savings to say one day, all right, you want me to come to the office to go to work?
Yeah.
No, I'll work at home.
Yeah.
All right, but I'll only work 9 to 5. And
Yeah.
now with the employees are dictating to the employers. And that's a big change the employers have to accept.
Yeah.
So, but they are going to retirees. Now, I know in Canada, you get pension, the government supplements, I'm sorry, the government pays your pension when you retire, right?
No, it depends where you're working. I mean, our COVID programs, I think were somewhat similar to yours. People were getting also fair amounts of cash payments if they were out of work or lost work. And so that's part of contributing to the same issues here. Yeah. Pensions. No, I mean, we have.
You contribute to your own pension plans, or is it non-contributory? I mean, does the employer contribute and only the employer, or can you match it like in the States?
You can match it, but it truly depends on the company. So some companies match. Some companies still have defined benefit programs. Some have defined contribution programs. Some have nothing. Different government agencies operate differently. We're in a very interesting time where there's a wide range of retirement. And then for those who are, then if you work at, so some companies, you don't really get much of a pension, but so the government has a retirement plan where you can contribute to your own retirement X dollars per year, and then it grows. It reduces your taxable income. So if you contribute to your own retirement plan, you effectively take dollar for dollar off your top level income, and then it grows tax free until you retire. So there are programs here where you can self-fund.
Sounds similar.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
But a lot of corporations here in the States are getting rid of those defined benefit plans.
Oh yeah, same here. They are going the way of the dodo bird actually around here. I mean, I don't know too many other than some government agencies, and it seems to be a thing of the past, the defined benefit plan. Yes.
Yeah. And we've been talking about defined benefit, and I would think that a lot of people watching this don't even know what it is, but
oh yeah. Yeah.
And I apologize. And you can be frank with me. We hardly touched the surface of what you do.
Oh no, we touched on a little bit, and it's been fun chatting with you. But you're right. There's certainly opportunity to chat more at some point if you're interested. It's been fun chatting with you today.
No, I would like to. I always what I do at the end is I usually say to whoever I'm interviewing is give yourself a plug why people should get into this. All right. And in less than, can you do it in less than 5 minutes?
Oh, for sure.
Could you give me a plug? I'm thinking about it. Well, I listened to it. It sounds interesting. Mergers, acquisitions. Give me a reason All right.
Sure.
Why I should go into this.
Why you should go into modeling and why you should get certified and get an accreditation in this area. Well, listen, it's pretty simple. If you are going to be working in any area of accounting or finance that's going to be involved in understanding forecasting companies for credit purposes, for valuation purposes, maybe you're a money manager, maybe you run money and you're investing in companies. Maybe you're just doing operational planning or budgeting. If you are in any way involved in making decisions or facilitating decision-making, decision-making around some of the key critical business decisions that we make that I talked about, you're in need of modeling skills. That's modeling. Modeling is all about trying to capture the future as best as you can in a clean, organized, beautiful way to help your teams make optimal decisions. And if you're involved in that, you need strong modeling skills. And the only way to truly prove that you have strong modeling skills, because we're the only organization in the whole world right now that is doing this, is to validate your modeling skills through the FMI. And then the best thing that happens when you get our AFM level is you've actually become a phenomenal financial modeler. In my mind, actually, the accreditation is secondary. The primary thing is you have become an outstanding modeler in order to get through the exam, and that it's a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life.
And there's more positions out there than there are supply of people, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of positions that are very hungry for people who have very strong modeling skills. It's a critical skill set more than ever before.
And how people are very materialistic, still.
Yeah.
All right. How are the salaries? I mean, I don't want a dollar amount, but are you compensated for the amount of time studying your knowledge?
Yes.
It is very good.
Yes. Jobs that are in. A lot of accountants will move into finance roles, corporate finance roles, asset management roles, managing money, because they do tend to pay higher than working in traditional accounting roles. It is what it is. And so having strong modeling skills is a great way to bolster your own personal resume, to allow you to move into a finance role that will undoubtedly be higher paying than most, many accounting roles, I would think.
I hope you felt that this was worthwhile being on here. And I don't know if you gave enough information you wanted to, but I really would like you to come on again and continue this. I mean, I feel like we scratched the surface. And maybe that's my fault because I just keep talking. But,
no.
Not
at all. Phil, it's been a real pleasure to chat with you. You've got great background and great insights, and it's been a real pleasure to be here and to talk a little bit about financial modeling. You're absolutely right.
By the way, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in this?
How do they get in touch with me? So I don't know if you're going to post that at all. My name is Ian Schnoor. Again, SCH.
Okay, we can post this.
You can post it SCHNOOR.
Right.
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, but I'm the executive director of the organization I was talking about called the Financial Modeling Institute, the FMI.
Okay.
And our website is fminstitute.com. And my contact info is there. We are not hard to find. We have a LinkedIn page. So if you're interested in the Financial Modeling Institute, you will not have a hard time finding us, and you'll see me there. Again, Ian Schnoor. So not hard to track.
I'll get your email. All right. And
yeah, sure.
It's information, and we'll get it on this video. Okay.
Great. Well, that's fantastic, right. Phil. We appreciate that. I'd love to come back when you're ready. We'll do some modeling together. I'll bring some models.
I will. What do you want me to wear? You like Pierre Cardin or?
I want a little Pierre Cardin. I'm always looking for a little Pierre Cardin.
Yes.
We'll get you up to speed too. Maybe we'll get you ready why don't we do that? Let's get you ready to write the modeling exam too. You can do it with your background.
In my age, I'm afraid I won't get beyond step 1/2. I mean, that's the problem.
Oh, you can, Phil. I'm optimistic. Okay. I know you can do it.
No, you don't have people my age, I would think. Do you? No.
So I you know what? It's all a state of mind, Phil. I'm optimistic.
It is. It's just the number. That's what I'm told.
It's just a number.
But I hate that number. I really do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway,
Phil, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good holiday and just stay well. And yeah, and by the way, thank Ria Romano. Ramondo, is it Romano?
Romano.
Romano. Please tell her I appreciate all of her cooperation. And I will call her again and, we'll see if you're very hard to book, I understand. But,
you know what? When you call, it'll just be like it'll be like Jackie Mason. You give them password and
now, the people watching this don't even know Jackie Mason.
I know. He's a famous comedian who you met. You told me about that. But
great.
Listen, I'm always when you call, I will be thrilled to book a time whenever you like to come back and chat with you.
I appreciate that. All right. Hey, stay well.
You too,
Stay
Phil.
safe.
You be well.
And once again, happy holidays to you.
And to you too, Phil. Be well, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I had today Ian Schnoor, all right, coming to us from Canada, talking about what he does, which is financial modeling. All right. We barely scratched the surface. Hopefully we'll get Ian back another time and we can continue this discussion. So ladies and gentlemen, hey, take care, be well. And most importantly, this COVID has not made people very nice. So therefore, you be nice to people. Okay? Take care, everyone.